G'day guys and welcome back to the channel. So a little while back I reviewed this Bluetti's AC200P portable power station. Now it seemed to be a popular topic, and so it should be. It's a great unit that powers a lot of grid, particularly as technology advances and integrates more into our day-to-day life. So today I'm going to be reviewing and testing this Bluetti's mid-sized portable power station, the EB150. We're going to talk about exactly what's included with this unit, how it works, some of the features and advantages with a unit like this, what could be improved or at least needs to be considered when purchasing a unit like this, who it's designed for and why. So let's get straight into it. Now a note before we start, yes, Bluetti did provide this unit to me at no cost. This is so I can test, review and provide comprehensive information to my viewers on a unit that is smaller and much cheaper than the big brother, the AC200P. Now I've been testing the EB150 for a little while now, and I've taken it on a few trips off-grid to see how it performs. In particular, I'm very interested to see how it compares with the much more expensive AC200. Bluetti sell all of their products online, and I know that shipping can be a concern to some of the buyers given the potential for damage in transit. Bluetti go above and beyond in terms of their packaging. The unit is boxed and has corner protection within black plastic wrapping. Opening the box, you're greeted by, well, another box. Removing the unit from the second box, the unit is safely suspended by a foam surround. In addition to the main unit, we also get the obligatory paperwork, warranty documents and quality control certificate. Further, we have our cables and adapters. The EB150 comes with an AC charger with an 8mm barrel input and also an 8mm to MC4 connector adapter to attach solar input. This is the Bluetti EB150 portable power station. This box houses a 1500 watt lithium battery, a 1000 watt pure sine wave inverter, high quality 500 watt solar MPPT charger and a host of DC outlets for all of your power needs. Now I know that Australians are going to ask how many amp hours is the battery rated to, because that is the most common measurement we use here in Australia. Now you need to keep in mind that amp hours is calculated using voltage. So since we're using 12 volt DC outlets and 240 volt AC outlets, amp hours isn't necessarily the best or simplest way to measure the capacity of the battery. However, saying that, if we take the 1500 watt hour capacity, divide that by a 12.8 constant, you can see roughly that the battery is rated to 117 amp hours. So coming in at 17 kilos, it measures 40 centimeters deep, 16 centimeters across and 36 centimeters tall. It's not a small unit by any means. But when you consider how much componentry is inside this unit, it's a well-packed product. Now the design of this unit is quite good. It's robust and solid. We have all of our 12 volt DC outlets on one end panel and the two 240 volt AC outlets on the other. Now as mentioned, this isn't light at 17 kilos, but the fixed solid and rubber undergrip handle makes it very easy to maneuver around. Now operation of the Bluetti EB150 couldn't be simpler. A simple 2-second press and hold of the power button turns the unit on, and we have two further buttons there to individually turn on the AC and DC outlets as required. The display is simple, easy to read and will display most of the information that the general user requires. A battery icon on the left hand side will show the current charge, and on the right hand side shows our power coming into the unit and the draw of the AC and DC outlets individually in watts. This is helpful when trying to conserve and track your power usage. The screen is also backlit as well, making it very easy to read at night, but also turns off after a short period of time of inactivity. Now there are several quality features on this unit here that other brands in the market just simply can't compete with. Firstly, the quality of the internal componentry has been proven in Bluetti products over the last few years. Their batteries and inverters are generally very efficient, and the product manual for the EB150 shows an efficiency rating there of 90%, which is up there in the top end of the market. So what that means is the internal componentry will draw about 10% of the total power used. Now in the world of portable power stations and electronics, generally the cheaper the product or the more inferior the product you buy, the less efficient these components are. This results in less usable power for your appliances or charging needs. Now the next great feature about this unit here is the regulated 12 volt output in the DC ports. This means that no matter what the state of charge of the battery is, we're going to have a constant voltage from full all the way down to empty, providing reliable and clean power. You can see by plugging in a voltage reader into the 12 volt port, we get a reading there of 13.7 volts, which is relatively unchanged from full to empty battery capacities. This means that you're going to be able to run almost any 12-volt appliance or charger efficiently, regardless of the state of charge. Now moving on to the rear of the unit, where we have our two 240-volt AC outlets. Now this is powered from a continuous 1000-watt inverter, which can also run at 1200 watt for a period of 2 minutes. Now turning the unit around, we can talk about the two methods that Bluetti offer to recharge these units. The first one is simply using the AC power cable. This just simply plugs into your normal outlet at home through a power brick and then terminates into an 8mm barrel style plug, which plugs into the front of the unit. So this power adapter, providing about 42 volts at 5 amps, converts to roughly 210 watts of input into the unit. So this means it will take about 8 hours to charge from empty. Now there are people out there trying to build their own transformers to try and up that power input to decrease that charging time. But what I've figured out is that we have a maximum charging rate here of 60 volt. Now if we take the power brick or the AC power adapter from the large AC200 unit, we can see here that this provides about 58.8 volt at roughly 8 amp, which is all in spec of the charging input for the EB150. Plugging in that unit into this EB150, we see a total of 475 watts of input, which is up there with its maximum 500 watt state of charge. If charging quickly is something that you're interested in, then maybe look at upgrading to that power brick if you want to charge this unit in about 3 hours from empty. Now, perhaps one of the biggest advantages for this unit over the market competitors, just like with the AC200, is the high input maximum power point tracking, or MPPT, solar charger. This unit here can accept up to 500 watt of solar between voltages of 16 volt and 60 volt. Now, as mentioned before, this unit is supplied with an MC4 to 8mm barrel connector, which is what we use to plug that solar panel into the front of the unit here. Now, one thing you do need to note is that there's only one input port for this product, which means you cannot dual charge from both AC and solar at the same time like you can on the AC200. Now, perhaps one of the biggest advantages for the EB150 unit are those charging voltages between 16 and 60. This is going to open up the ability to use almost any solar panel on the market. Now, as you may have seen from my AC200 review, the solar input there starts from 35 volt, which means that almost in every case, you're going to have to run two panels in series to activate charging input on that unit. However, with the case of the EB150, with that lower charging input at 16 volt, means that you can use a single panel if you want to, but you can also use a pair of panels in parallel or in series as well. Now, a 500 watt maximum for this EB150 is also significant for the size of the unit. We can use a few of the SP 200 watt panels from Bluetti, and we can wire them up in series or in parallel to input into this unit, as long as we don't exceed that 60 volt. Now, I do have more detail on series and parallel connections in my solar video review, so check that out if you're interested in that. It is important to note you can't overload the wattage on these units. You could effectively link 1000 watt of solar panels together, providing it's within that 16 to 60 volt. The unit acts as a gate and will only allow that 500 watt in. However, you can overload the voltage, and that will therefore create an error code on the system and prevent and stop all that charge coming in at all. Now, another great advantage the EB150 shares with the AC200 is pass-through charging. What this means is that you can utilize both the DC and the AC ports at the same time, but also at the same time as having an input going into the unit, whether that be from an AC or a solar input. This means that if you're powering a small load, for example a 12-volt fridge, and you have a solar input coming into the unit, you can effectively run this unit for an unlimited amount of time, providing the input is greater than the output. Now, I don't think there is such a thing as a perfect product, and this unit here is no exception. There are a few things that could potentially be improved in future versions, or at least things you need to consider if you are looking at one of these units for your own setup. Now, firstly, the battery state of charge is displayed through a series of bars within a battery icon on that front LCD display. Although it gives the user a rough estimate of how much of the capacity is remaining, the lack of a specific percentage can sometimes leave you guessing, particularly at those low levels. Now, the other thing I noticed about the EB150 is there is no way to charge this from a standard 12-volt outlet in your vehicle. You only have the AC and the solar methods available, without having to purchase a separate inverter and place it into your vehicle. Now, saying this, I understand that even with a 12-volt plug, you're going to be looking at about 15 to 20 hours to charge this from empty through that method, so maybe it's not a viable option anyway, but it would be nice just to have that option available. Now, as we've already been over as well, the design of this unit has all the DC outlets on the front and two AC outlets on the back. In my opinion, I'd believe it would be better if those AC outlets were able to join the DC outlets on the front, just making all of the componentry and display on the front panel with maybe some cooling fans on the back. Now obviously this unit has been designed for maximum portability, and if you're going to be moving it around and using those AC outlets, it's not going to be an issue to easily access the back of the unit. However, if you are stowing away this unit into a tight space in your vehicle or your RV, and this is butted up against a wall or at least in an enclosed area, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to access these AC ports without having an extension cord or power boards linked up to it. Now I understand these AC outlets have been placed on the rear by design to get the most compact and portable power station, and personally I would rather the compact size than have a larger size with them on the front. However, it is something that you need to keep in mind depending on how you plan on using a unit like this. Now the only other point that I think could be improved is the AC power bricks. As you can see, even this smaller unit that comes with the EB150 is still a large unit, and it's something that maybe one day could be implemented or included within the housing of the EB150. Again, I understand that it's very tightly packed in there. However, it would be nice just to have a single cable plugging into the unit from the wall rather than including this massive power brick. Now these points might not be deal breakers and they sure don't affect the functionality of the unit, but it's definitely something that you need to keep in mind depending on how you plan on using the unit. So the unit is designed and built well and appears good on paper, but who exactly is it designed for? So I've come up with 3 categories of people that I think would receive a benefit from a unit like this. Now the first one is going to be someone seeking an alternate or a backup emergency supply of power during unforeseen events like outages. So for me, I was able to use this unit to power things like my TV, my fridge, LED lighting, internet, all while charging portable devices. For example, a fridge like this one, which is 537 litres, only uses 120 watts when the compressor is running. So keep in mind, a fridge will turn off and on to maintain a set temperature. So this would mean that I would roughly be able to get about 15 hours of runtime from the EB150. Now your typical generator is fairly noisy and it's not going to be used at night time, where an advantage for something like the EB150 means that you can use it throughout the night and also inside your house without that noise and exhaust pollution. Now depending on the input and the output rates and also on the availability of good quality solar, you may be able to power this unit indefinitely. Now the other group of people that a unit like this would benefit is someone who is looking for a dual battery system or an auxiliary battery in their vehicle, but wants a completely portable solution. This is going to benefit those who maybe only go away a couple times a year or the odd weekend and want something in the back of the vehicle that can act as an auxiliary battery to power things like your 12-volt fridge, LED lighting, and charge up all of that camera and portable device gear. The advantage of this is that when you get home from that trip, you can remove it from your vehicle, chuck it back on charge and have it ready for that next trip, next power outage, or perhaps even when swapping vehicles or buying a new vehicle. You're not going to have to invest thousands of dollars into a system that is permanently hardwired into your vehicle or your RV. And thirdly, this unit is going to be helpful for someone like myself. So in my 200 series cruiser here, I'm running a relatively standard dual battery system with a single auxiliary battery mounted into the engine bay. This is powering primarily our 65-litre Waco fridge, onboard lighting, and to charge a few devices. However, with technology advancing and integrating it more and more into our day-to-day life, and particularly in my circumstances of capturing video, my power requirements are really putting stress on this electrical system. A unit like both the AC200 or the EB150 really helps relieve that, enabling me to charge all of my camera gears and my portable devices, as well as taking away a few extra luxuries when we go on camping trips. In particular, I have 2 pieces of camera equipment that cannot be charged off the vehicle without it running. This is the camera batteries for my Canon camera and also my drone. Now just quickly, for those who own DJI products, you'd know that the 12-volt car charger won't charge off anything less than 13.5 volt, which means the vehicle has to be running. So having a portable power station that's regulated above that and also having those AC outlets enabled me to charge all of my devices, whether the vehicle's running or I'm stationary for a couple of days at camp. So I'm able to power all of this gear simultaneously. From laptops to drone batteries, controllers, GoPro batteries, camera batteries, iPhones and smartwatches, everything can be plugged into the unit at the same time. In fact, everything you see on this table here is being powered together and is only drawing about 250 watt, which would mean that I could power all of this for about 5 hours continuously. A unit like this will also allow you to carry battery operated equipment, things like drills, impact wrenches, and even electric chainsaws. You'll be able to use these out on the track, knowing that when you get to camp, you'll be able to charge the batteries back up through the AC inverter. So I mentioned earlier that you're not able to charge the system up from your vehicle as you receive it from Bluetti. There's no ability to plug into any cigarette lights or any standard 12-volt ports within your vehicle. However, I have come up with a solution that's been working really well on a couple of trips that we've done recently. I have a vehicle mounted 1000 watt inverter in the rear of the cargo area, and I simply use the supplied AC power connector to charge the unit while we're driving along. This suits the type of camping and exploring that my family and I do, which often results in a lot of driving throughout the day as we move from camp to camp each night. And using the larger AC 200 power brick, I'm able to put in almost 500 watt of power back into the unit while we're driving, which means only 3 hours on the road and I'll have a fully charged EB150. A unit like this is also an easy way to get into powering devices that you don't often take away camping, or maybe a little bit of a luxury. Things like pedestal fans, small heaters, electric blankets can all be powered off a unit like this, and even better, they can be powered throughout the night when generators are typically prohibited in campgrounds. Further, you're also able to power small air conditioners, small microwaves, and the list goes on with any appliance under 1000 watt. For us, we've been using this unit to power electric blankets throughout the night. A blanket like this single one here, which uses about 85 to 116 watts of power as it pulses on the high setting, would last anywhere between 15 to 25 hours if you were to lower that setting down. This has been something that my wife has been very appreciative of on our last few camping winter trips. The advantage of the EB150 unit here is its smaller dimensions and its lighter weight. This means it's easier to move around camp, in particular around our ground tents. So overall, I think the EB150 is great value for money. It's a great alternative and a mid-size option to the AC200P. Not everyone needs the features and the high output and high input ratings that the AC200 has, but this unit, also being so much smaller and lighter, makes it very easy to maneuver around, takes up little room in the back of your vehicle, and is just a very convenient unit to use. The EB150 comes in at over $1,000 cheaper than the AC200 counterpart, but still features those great internal components. My experience with these two Bluetti products has been positive so far. I've taken both the EB150 and the AC200 on some recent trips and exposed them to some rough conditions and also some rough weather conditions, and nothing has failed yet. I do like the compact size of the EB150, and the fact that it's got this single handle at the top makes that lighter weight much easier to maneuver around camp. Although I've mentioned some design features that potentially could be changed or modified in future versions, I understand that this has been implemented by design to make sure this unit is as compact as possible, which I believe is what the majority of the market would seek. When you're considering that you're receiving a 117 amp hour battery, a 1000 watt inverter, and a 500 watt MPPT solar charger, all within a very compact and robust unit, you're looking at some pretty good value there at about $1,569 in 2021. Sure, it's not going to power things like induction cookers, large microwaves or kettles, or any other high-powered appliances, but it is going to power the majority of what a lot of the market require. It's a perfect filler between a general dual battery system like I've got in my Cruiser here, or even for someone who doesn't run a dual battery system but looking for a completely portable solution. So guys, remember, if you are looking at for one of these Bluetti systems for yourself, whether it be either of these units or the solar panels, I do have some personalized links in the description below, which will save you a little bit of money on your own purchase. So check them out if you are interested. So I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that I was able to provide you with some information on the EB150, in particular if you are comparing it with the AC200. Be sure to let me know what you think of the Bluetti lineup in the comment section below. But I'll be sure to see you guys in the next video. Cheers.